I'd like to bring this meeting to order. The Village of Villa Park Board of Trustees Committee of the Whole meeting, January 8th, 2024. Clerk Konecki, please call the roll.
Yes, Trustee Alfano.
Here.
Trustee Cordova.
Here.
Trustee Corkery. Trustee Kozar.
Here.
Trustee Kumar. Trustee Patrick.
Here.
President Kazone.
Here, and we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to go on to our item tonight is the Sugar Creek Golf Course status. At this time, staff recommends the board not agree to a full write-off of the $584,951.84. On Wednesday, Finance Director Howard, Parks and Recreation Director Gola, and our Village Manager Harline met remotely with Jim Rogers, the Executive Director, and Barbara Stembridge, the Director of Finance of the Elmhurst Park Board, to discuss the proposal to forgive or conditionally forgive the funds owed to the village by the Sugar Creek Golf Club. And I'll turn this over to Manager Harline. Would you like to do a little recap of your meeting?
Yeah, I'd just go through that really quickly and kind of just a very quick overview of how we got here and, you know, so when we adopted the budget last year, we adopted the budget with no assumptions that anything would be forgiven. And so this year's budget, as adopted by the Sugar Creek Golf Course, assumes a net of about $154,000. $50,000 would go to Elmhurst Park District, $50,000 would go to us, and then $54,000 would be put into retained earnings or fund balance or what So what we're looking at is a decision at some point whether or not to forgive past monies that were spent by either Elmhurst Park District or the village to the benefit of the golf course, which would be owed to be paid back theoretically, although no note was actually signed. So some other background, we originally had the IGA that as far back as I can see goes back to 1975. The basic outline of how it's jointly owned by the Elmhurst Park District and the Village of Villa Park. Sets out that the golf course is governed by a 7-member administrative board with members serving 3-year staggered terms. So the way it's working is the majority of the members alternate between the village and EPD, Elmhurst Park District, and member of the minority is serving as chairperson. Right now, Greg Gola is serving as the chairperson and will do so until May when they'll switch the board, and Elmhurst will have 3 members, we'll have 4 members, and they'll have the chairmanship. The Park District has served as the administrator and the fiscal agent of the golf course since its inception. During an economic downturn after about 2009, the golf course failed to operate with positive cash flow, and Elmhurst Park District absorbed those losses. However, they didn't really, it was kind of done without a lot of input. During this period, the total amount owed to EPD grew, and it may have been actually earlier than that, than when the downturn started, but I didn't go back and edit that. They grew, their amount owed grew to about $1.4 million, and about the time when Greg came on as the Parks and Rec Director, there was sort of a suggestion that the village should absorb their share of that debt. And there was some discussion about that, or I guess that it was that discussion about us absorbing this share of the debt. Actually, that was a little bit later, right? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so we rejected the notion that we owed half of that debt, especially since there had never been an open discussion. Could we have been more? Could we have asked more questions at that time, as the losses were recorded and we went to the meetings and that sort of thing? Probably. Some of that took place. Most of that debt was accrued before everybody who's now in charge was in charge. So the village has since then spent $159,000, over $159,000 towards the paving of the parking lot, and we received a grant to restore the creek bed it's a stormwater management grant. We supplied the match money of $247,000 plus, and then we also made a bond payment in the amount of $178,000, which adds up to the amount owed to the village. An email to the village auditor, from the village auditor, came with the packet. Elmhurst Park District at one time used to charge $70,000 per year as a estimate for their, to reimburse them for the portion of time that Mr. Rogers and other EPD staff spent administering the Sugar Creek Golf Course. In 2020, the village offered to serve as the administrative agent and not charge the golf course, and the Park District responded by essentially not charging Sugar Creek Golf Course at all. So that was, they acknowledged that the village was willing to do that, so they were willing to do this. At this point, the golf course wants to remove the $2 million liability from its books. And if possible, they want to focus the money that is in excess of the operating expenses every year on some deferred capital improvements and investments. They have a lot more to work with now because they are no longer paying the $225,000 in annual bond payments on a debt they borrowed for the refurbishing the clubhouse, and then I think the driving range was that part of this as well, yeah, in the driving range. So right now, because that's paid off, they're able to promise a repayment of $50,000 to both owners. They would prefer to defer those annual payments to allow them to more aggressively prefer that capital plan. They have got just under $199,000 budgeted in this year. They're showing a $1.2 million demolishing and rebuilding a maintenance shed, and the maintenance shed is not in good shape. And right now they reported a $2.1 million fund balance in their 2020 year-end audit. Their cash position is good, but not nearly that level. So they would like to, I figure that right now what we need to do is to continue discussion, understand the financial condition, and perhaps look at the possibility of giving them some time to catch up on the capital, and then revisiting before we decide whether we want to fully forgive that, or if it becomes possible at that time for the village to get some of that investment back. So those are different possibilities. At this point, though, I don't think that now the liability against the books for the golf course is a bit of a burden for them, and could be if they needed to borrow additional money. We also have with me, and I've spent a lot of time talking, Greg Golick, and talked about the operation, maintenance, and some of the things that the golf course is doing to address their financial operation. And then Chuck Howard, our finance director, has spent a fair amount of time with the golf course to understand the debt, I'll call it the debt between the two organizations, and what the different responses will mean to the golf course. Golf course has had some good years recently. The 21, they took in 21, 22. It's in the. Let me have to look back at the. Then 2020. 2021 actuals, they showed a net of a positive $355,491, and in 22 they showed a net positive of $582,472. They budgeted very conservatively this year, which would have given them, before the $50,000 payments, again $154,000 net this year. So that's basically the opening report. Would answer any questions, and again, Greg and and Chuck are here to answer questions about the operation financing of the golf course.
Thank you. I'd like to start, Chuck, you had obviously discussions with the Elmhurst Park District that looked over the books. Do the numbers match with what they're telling us? And I know Greg could probably attest to this, that they have not been always forthcoming with us. And several years ago, I think when Al Balthus was president, we finally got a lot of that squared away, like how much we actually owed. But, I mean, do their numbers kind of match with what you've been seeing there?
I took a look at that, and yes, their numbers do match. They match to the audited numbers that we carry on our books. And two, I reconciled within $100 or so of what number got reported. So yes, they are carrying the same amount due that we are carrying as a receivable. One of the things that I think Elmhurst carries it in their general fund. We carry it in a series of funds here in street improvement, I think in the debt service fund. And also, I think we have a piece of it in stormwater buyout. So we have these receivables there that are totaling up to the amount that they're showing on their books. So I'm confident that we're all looking at the same numbers.
Okay, good, thank you. Any trustees have any questions? Trustee Kozar.
Are we charging any interest on this money?
Interest is accruing on the debt annually, and we record that as a part of the debt.
What's the rate that it's?
I can't tell you the rate because it's over a number of years. We just accrue it based on the current rate. I think the rate comes from the rate that we can borrow or that we get paid out of Illinois funds. At least that's the one that I calculate.
Like 3%?
Yeah, currently it's around there, I would guess. It's been a while since I made a calculation, but it does.
What are the, you've looked at their profit or their asset liability sheet. What are they carrying for liabilities? Like, what do they have for debt?
I don't have those numbers right in front of me. I just really took a look at what that one particular debt that we have means to us. If I can get back to you on what their whole liabilities are.
Greg, do you know if they, because I don't think they have much right now in terms of debt. I think they had that debt for the capital improvements that they have paid off a couple of years ago.
Right, we were carrying bonds, the 2011 D bonds for capital purposes for them, which got paid off last year.
Unfortunately, their meeting schedule is exactly parallel to our meeting schedule, so they couldn't attend tonight. So we'd have to schedule a special meeting if we wanted everyone together.
No problem. We can follow up on that anyway.
Yeah.
What's the advantage of forgiving these debts for us? Can anybody answer?
There really isn't, because it's not a cash thing for us. It is this liability and this receivable that we have. It would affect the fund balance in these three funds where we carry that debt, so we would essentially write that off, and then they would take it in as revenue to us. It means, I think, about 1% for the stormwater and the wastewater fund, and the balance that we're carrying debt service is about this amount, so it probably would just, and debt service should zero out because we use it to make debt payments and that's it. So we're carrying a balance there for this. I think about 78% of what we're carrying in there as an amount receivable would be eliminated.
But, I mean, what you've just described is just kind of numbers on a page. I mean, what's the benefit for our individual residents, the people in Villa Park, to give a gift to the golf course of $500,000?
I think the benefit would be probably on the golf course side. I mean, it's an investment we have, and those expenses were incurred some years past, so it's nothing new. I think it would be to the advantage of the golf course and making it a viable entity, and this investment that we have, a community investment, would be enhanced.
Okay. I'm not really hearing any advantage to our people for that. I mean, if anybody else can, a community enhanced, I don't really know what that means, and I'm not, I don't know, I just don't see it. I don't see any benefit on our end for it.
If I may,
Just quickly.
it would be used to improve the golf course, which is a public utility, right? And I'm leaning towards agreeing with Trustee Kozar, because it seems like a lot of money, and I'd like to see some numbers on how many people in town use the golf course, you know, how much use it gets, but it's like a park essentially, right?
Right, right.
Or a swimming pool. You know, you're not there so much to make money, but you just don't want to be putting a lot of
Yeah,
money
just as
into
we
it.
do at Parks and Rec, yeah.
So what else? I mean, the value of the green space and the availability of a driving range and golf course to the local population is going to obviously vary greatly between those who play golf and those who do not. The green space is valuable, but and hard to find. But you know, you could have it more valuable or more available. The operation is itself viable, and to the extent that I mean, if we were to, so let's go to the if we don't want to have a golf course. First of all, I think that you have to remember we're a co-owner of this. So if we decide we wanted to sell it, I'm not sure Elmhurst Park District would be willing.
I don't think we're talking about selling the golf course, are
Okay.
we? We're
I'm
just
not.
talking about a $500,000 loan.
Right.
You're like
Oh.
jumping
Okay.
way somewhere else on this.
Okay. Well, so if we're going to keep the resource, I think I think you make an excellent point about why do we not want to get back our $500,000. The question is, right now they're saying we need it for capital investment, and that might be because they have, I think, and Greg, based on my conversations with Director Gola, the past operation was run the operation of the year, see where we're at, do we have any money left over after paying off our note for some capital improvements? And if we didn't, everything got deferred. That's not a very good, that's the best they could do for the time. So now they're looking at trying to catch up on some of that. So would we be willing to defer our recovery of that amount? What the Elmhurst Park District Board wasn't necessarily excited about the idea of completely writing it off. And this is kind of where I'm getting with what they said is, okay, we can defer it, and they haven't made a final decision yet. What about just recording it somewhere that if you ever sell it, we want our $1.4 million back? And I can't remember if the assumption would be there would be interest on that $1.4 million.
We would, yeah,
Yeah.
continue to record or
Right.
accumulate the accrued interest on the debt.
But they would forgive it for the foreseeable future so that the golf course could get on a better financial footing. You know, maybe there's an answer. I'm suggesting maybe there's an answer somewhere in between. Put it in there and never expect it back unless, for some reason, it's decided to sell the property. And then Elmhurst Park District, the last thing they were talking about, and to the best of my knowledge, this hasn't been a final decision. They're kind of waiting for us. They had some of these discussions back in August. We had other things going on. And there's no hurry to make this decision right now. But do we want to pursue a total forgiveness? I don't recommend that. Forgiveness, or basically, we don't want it back, but if you sell it, we want our portion back plus interest, and then whatever else the property sells for goes 50-50. Or what I'm wanting to see is the possibility of, let's look at it in 5 years. If you've made some, if you recovered, you got your maintenance shed, fixed, can we start paying it back at $50,000 or whatever that can keep the golf course healthy, or where the golf course can still stay in operation financially, but we can begin to recover what we invested in that golf course. Because, Village of Villa Park, making a $500,000 gift is a big ask. So I think I don't think we could ask for, if you ask for it all back at once, obviously that's going to be disastrous to them financially. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, in your comments, you said if you sell it, who is the you that you're referring to?
The y'all, the you plural, you, this board, there's no ustedes in the English, yeah.
If we sell it,
Well, we can't sell it by ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be if.
so if
yeah,
between Villa Park and Elmhurst, they agree to sell it.
Yeah.
That's the you.
Yes.
And there was, a couple of years ago, there was an offer, wasn't there, Greg, Chuck, I don't think you were here yet. Wasn't there, a developer was looking to purchase Sugar Creek, and, I mean, they figured, it was a very lowball offer, because a lot of it is on.
Yeah, they inquired about it, about purchasing, but it would be the property that wasn't in the floodplain.
Yeah.
So it would basically be homes or what have you right on.
Yeah, and they made an offer that was, I mean, ridiculous, and I think both us and Elmer said no.
So
Yeah, there would be no way to look.
isn't the golf course like for profit? Like,
Yes,
right.
Yep.
So it's not really a park, even though maybe you sit as the chair. You're
It's
very
not-
much affiliated with parks, but
Correct.
it's for profit. Like,
it's
you
it's
can't
a
just walk on the golf
recreation.
course and enjoy it without paying for it.
Correct. It's a recreation amenity for
Right.
that specific target audience.
Has Villa Park ever received any money out of profit for this entity?
I'd have to defer to Chuck on that one. I can't, I don't know off the hand on the finances on that.
And you said they just got rid of $2.2 million worth of bonds?
That was the, when they renovated the clubhouse, Elmhurst took out that debt, and then they, excuse me, there was houses just to the east of the clubhouse, which they bought that and then put the driving range in, like a driving range, and the village absorbed that debt. And that was all retired last year.
And you're saying that it's fairly debt-free at this point?
Yep.
Yeah, outside of what we're owed. And
Yeah,
Elmer's is
yeah,
on, yeah.
yep.
All right, so, I mean, all the more reason, like, if they're fairly debt-free, the doomsday scenario of, the term "keep the resource if you sell it," I mean, it's not really happening, because they don't really have much debt. Nobody's putting them in that position.
Right, they've, the past 6-7 years, they've been profitable.
So, I'm still not hearing any benefit to the people that live in Villa Park, why we would want to give that entity a gift of $500,000. And I'm still, I would love to hear it, but I have not heard it.
Trustee Patrick.
Thank you. Do we have an,
Sorry, you're done, Trustee Kozar?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Trustee Patrick.
do we have an estimated value of the golf course in general, of what that might be?
I'm sure we can probably, I don't know if Elmhurst has done any of that research, but we can look into that.
Has Elmhurst always been adamant about wanting to keep their share of the golf course? Is there any possibility that the village might want to take on this role entirely by buying their half out? I don't know how much that would be, if we have the means to do such, but at the end of the day, I'm just curious as to see what an estimated value of that asset of ours would be.
It's, nobody's ever approached Elmhurst, this is the first that question has been posed, so it's certainly an option to consider. I think, I can't say, but I would surmise that back in the day, both Elmhurst and Villa Park got into this agreement to offer some more recreational activities to the residents.
Trustee Corkery.
Do we know what capital improvements would be made with that $500,000? Is there anything specific outlined that money would be used for, or anything that's really
I'm sorry, with
pressing?
the 500 from our end?
Yeah.
Well, as the manager had mentioned earlier, some of the capital improvements were more equipment based, and when the golf course was on leaner times, we would wait until December to see where we're at financially, and unfortunately, the golf course superintendent would have to wait, and he deferred, purchasing new equipment. He's got the whole time schedule of equipment replacement, and basically back like the village did in 2009, 10, where we deferred purchasing vehicles, it set the village back. It's on a smaller scale. It's kind of what happened with the golf course. He wasn't able to buy any fairway mowers and greens mowers and those type of things. I think what Elmhurst was getting at is the maintenance garage has seen its better days. It's going to be in need of replacement. And so I think that would be the next big project to start getting some of the engineering done and see where we're at with replacing the maintenance garage.
How big a garage is it?
I don't know offhand. I can get you that. It's relatively small. It's right by the creek.
Yeah, but they've replaced all the equipment that you were talking about?
No, oh no,
They need that too?
no.
Okay.
There's plenty of other equipment that's 18, 20 years old. I think we're replacing this year in this year's budget probably the mower, if I recall correctly, which is about 20 years old. So Kevin is systematically trying to replace those older pieces. What he's done in the winter is, welded mower decks and done, refurbished all the old equipment.
About how much does a fairway mower cost, just out of curiosity?
I think
60,000.
100. Yeah, there's one for 60 grand.
Yeah, that's what's in the budget for this year is a $60,000 one. Kubota mower replacement, holdover from 2023.
It's a big lawnmower.
Yeah. They also need a sprayer.
Yeah.
For 50 grand.
Craig, when we sold the house that was on there, that was meant for equipment, do you know what equipment they bought with that?
I believe that was the rough mower. I'll have to check and get back to you on that, but.
Yeah, because that was a couple $100,000, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Trustee Patrick.
Thank you. I don't know if you could explain or clarify for me, being that Villa Park and Elmhurst are co-owners of this property, when a building like the building that needs to be replaced right now,
The maintenance shed.
the maintenance shed, I apologize, but when that needs to be replaced, what's the process, or how's the process go about where both parties agree on whether it be the structural engineering studies and/or the cost of the project itself, and how is that pushed forward?
Well, it's kind of similar to the pond restoration project that we just completed. Elmhurst is the administrative body, so they did kind of the legwork, looked at different engineering firms that would give us some information on restoring the pond, and then the firm would come and make a presentation. They did that to our Sugar Creek board, and then we chose, it was Living Waters happened to be chosen, and so I would imagine it would be the same type of find an engineering firm, get approval, and then we would go back to the parent body boards to get approval to go forward with hiring an engineering firm to give us that information.
Does the original agreement have the terms stated in it about who does what and breaks that down as to what those duties include?
Yeah, I have to revisit that because it's from the 70s, but I'm sure, I don't know what the specifics are. We can
Okay,
find out
I would
for you.
like to see that, but I also think it would be a good idea that the Village of Villa Park at least revisit that agreement, if especially it's from the 70s, to
Right.
see if there's anything that we could do moving forward.
Yep. We had talked about that after our meeting.
Okay.
The village manager talked about, it's probably needs some updating from several years ago, yeah.
Well, and specifically, one of the things that EPD and I guess the management of the board was talking about doing is to revisit that I don't think there's a supplement to the 1975 original agreement, which would address this particular issue about this money that both the entities have invested. And so, if we agree to defer for a few years to give them a chance to catch up on finance, I think, or on equipment. They've got it, so in the packet, in a spreadsheet that's, you have to expand pretty well to see all of it. There's a number, they have a 5-year plan, and then they've got some things for the years 29 through 33 that need to be done. But that doesn't include a separate list, which comes on the next page, about the $1.2 million in repair or replacement of the current maintenance shed. By the way, one of the things I'd like to do, and this is at this point just in my own brain, we're purchasing a new bus this year to replace the old Parks and Rec bus, and I think it'd be valuable for us to go out there as a group and see this and the wet water treatment facility and some things like that. So, but if you want to lay eyes on it, it's along Villa Avenue, just north of the bridge, the south end of town. So south of the bridge. Sorry. That's the facility we're talking about replacing. And then, then there's a whole bunch of issues of where do you put it and all that kind of stuff. But, or, putting it back there and how do you replace a building while you still have one operating. But, so that is, what they were talking about is then borrowing money for that and then paying that back at about $100,000 a year. So if you add that to what the village and the park district would be receiving, it just becomes harder and harder to make the thing pencil out. And they're asking for some time to catch up. I think that's reasonable, but I think the question that you guys have asked, that why should we make a final, make this gift, is a good one. And of course, if we want to be repaid, then Elmhurst Park District is also probably going to want to be repaid, and they're owed almost 3 times as much. So the idea is to get that back without crippling the golf course. You don't want to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. And the other part, your question, Trustee Kozar, is what is the value? It is green space. It is a golf course that's used, but I don't think anybody has the answer to, I don't know, we even keep track of where people are from when they use it.
Yeah, I don't, and let me just make a correction.
Yeah.
The maintenance shed is just south of the creek, so let me just,
Yeah.
excuse me, the north of the creek. It's right,
Okay.
it's right on the creek on the north side, so let me
Okay.
correct that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they do a Golf Now registration for golf tee times, and it's all through the internet. And I don't know if they require an address, but I can find out to see if they do require an address for that. It's usually credit card.
Trustee Patrick, go ahead.
I do believe that a golf course in any municipality should always be viewed as an asset, and it can be. But I also think that revisiting the original agreement and seeing that and having those discussions will allow us, the board and the Village of Villa Park, to kind of look into things of, especially the management over the years from the 70s until now, and how that was managed, and how at least Villa Park and our board would like to move going forward with that. I don't think anybody is saying that they want to sell the golf course or get rid of it. I just think that there's an opportunity to manage it even better, especially like what Trustee Kozar was saying. If this is an asset that has no debt, there's a lot of opportunity there for us to take advantage of. I don't know if you called it the golden egg, or somebody called it the golden egg over here. But it also gives the village an opportunity to see if we could manage this better than it has been before. So I think, I personally would like to see that original agreement, when you can find that, send it our way.
For sure.
But I also think that warrants a discussion moving forward in the future as to what the board's direction or idea for the future of the golf course should be.
Trustee O'Fonnell.
I do have another question for you, Director Gola, and you may or may not have an answer to this. I know that in the packet, it was mentioned that there was this exchange. Is there any reason given, I don't know if you were a part of the discussion, by the Park District in Elmhurst for not charging the golf course for the time that was spent managing the administration costs? Once our village said, well, we would do that, we would take over that. Was there any discussion about that, about why they just kind of ate those costs?
Are you talking in the discussion between Elmhurst and the village? The only discussion I recall is when we're in the budget process, and Elmhurst was charging annually a 10% administrative charge, and then they dropped it down to 5%. And then when we had some discussions about the debt, the previous village managers had suggested that we would be happy to be the administrative body, and we wouldn't charge the 5% to save the golf course a little bit more money. And we would just, we would take payroll and everything else and just include it in staff's weekly activities and responsibilities. So when we offered that, then Elmhurst came back and said they would like to continue to be the administrative body, and hence no more administrative charges.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Okay, so I think kind of what I'm hearing up here is that the board really does not want to, at least at this time, give up our $500,000 that's owed to us. I don't think we are that concerned about getting it paid back right now, but long term, maybe we just address this a year from now. Kind of what staff is suggesting.
Is that going to be enough time? I think that.
Yeah, what is staff suggesting on this?
Well, I think that during the year that we have those discussions when we come through the budget process next time, and they'll be going through their budget process as well. When the $50,000 I'm guessing at this, but I think it's a pretty good guess, that the check for the $50,000 wouldn't be cut until the end of the year, when they know what the net looks like. And then if they had a terrible year, and I'm again just guessing, that they'd ask if we didn't take it this year, so because that's budgeted in this year. And so I think the timeline for making a choice and making a decision would be, before the fall, when we're putting our budget together. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to discuss that, and the possibility of not saying, yes, we're willing to forgive it, which I think, again, I don't think Elmhurst Park District was wanting to completely forgive it as well. And I think that's the discussion that we had. The other question would be, and then bring back to this board, in addition to the information that you guys requested, a couple of options, one of which would be probably, if Elmhurst Park District is still looking at that option, put it into a long-term deferred status, which is what they're talking about. Or what I'm thinking, and one of the things I haven't really I haven't gone back to the Elmhurst Park District and see what this does to their books and holding that liability on their books, but come back and revisit this after 5 years or so, when they've had some chance to catch up on their capital, and then maybe we defer those $50,000 payments for a few years. If we see that there's we got a chart, but even more depth on the capital improvement plan, and more depth on what they're talking about with the maintenance facility. And then, we decide whether we want to go for like a 5-year deferment, a, more longer term one, or ask them to continue to pay us $50,000. Obviously, again, asking for cash payment right now, $5 million or $500,000, $1.4 million to Elmhurst Park District would kill the golf course, and that serves no purpose. So that wouldn't be a good option, unless you were liquidating the whole asset.
Okay.
So I'm suggesting that we work on this, and by October bring you back options on how to proceed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And in between now and then, there's some information we can get you, including the 1975 agreement.
Okay. Okay, so can we get a consensus on that, to let staff continue to investigate this, and then through the course of the year, we'll get the information, and then we'll address this again in August?
Let's see.
At the beginning of the budget season?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Clerk Kornecki?
Okay, trustee Corkery,
Yes.
trustee Patrick,
Yes.
trustee Alfano,
Yes.
Trustee Kozar,
Yes.
trustee Cordova,
Yes.
President Cassell.
Yes. Okay, so we will continue on that course, and as of right now, we won't forgive the debt. Okay, with that, we will go to item 4 is public comments. Do we have any public comments on this issue? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Trustee Cordova, we have a second? Trustee Alfano, okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we will close the committee of the whole meeting, and then we will reconvene at 7 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you to staff, too. Appreciate it.